Hello there, YouTube strangers. I wanted to share with you the method I'm using to convert my old ugly chain link fence into a nice, beautiful cedar fence. Nice 6-foot tall wooden fence. And I thought I'd start with how I set up my posts for the wooden fence. I decided to reuse the metal posts that held up the chain link fence. They seemed like they were in pretty good shape, didn't have a lot of rust, and I wanted to avoid having to put new posts in because I'm lazy. So the first thing I noticed was a lot of the posts were too skinny. They were the 1 7/8 diameter steel posts, not quite robust enough to hold up a 6-foot wooden fence, especially if the wind picks up. So what I ended up doing was going to Lowe's and purchasing a number of their 6-foot steel posts that were 2 3/8 inch diameter. That's the common diameter for the end posts and where the gates attach to. And I also purchased a number of tubes of the Loctite professional grade construction adhesive. And I ended up coating the 1 7/8 inch diameter tubes with this entire tube of the construction adhesive, 1 tube per post, and then I slid the 6-foot larger diameter posts over the top of the skinnier posts and slid it all the way to the bottom. And then when the adhesive dried, it created a nice, strong, stiff composite member, if you will. And then I ended up beefing up the concrete caps on the bottom of the steel posts because I wasn't happy with how the old concrete had held up over however long this fence had been standing. And what that resulted in was all my posts were a different height just because I had to lengthen some of the larger ones that were already there, and variations in the height of the concrete foundations on each post. So I needed to come up with a method to easily cut all my posts to the same height. And rather than using a string and a level and busting out the old angle grinder with a cutting blade on it, I thought, why not try a pipe cutter? So the first thing I did was I used my laser level, which is a fantastic tool. I love the tool. I use it all the time. It basically projects a horizontal laser beam, and inside the level there's a self-leveling pendulum, if you will. And I could see the laser beam on almost all the posts. And all I had to do was walk around with a Sharpie and mark the line. And I knew I had a nice level line all the way down. Here's a quick glimpse of the kit that I bought on Amazon if you care to see it. The Johnson level tool, it's a great tool. You can see the line easily. There's a vertical and horizontal line. Not too bad. It's about $100. Here you can see a Sharpie line that I wrote onto the post, and I ended up buying this pipe cutter on Amazon. It's a rigid pipe cutter, originally designed for copper. It goes from 1/4 inch to 2 5/8 inch, so I knew it was big enough to cut this large diameter pipe. I just wasn't quite sure if it could do the steel. But I figured $60, why not? So it's got a nice spring-loaded cutting wheel, and it was kind of hard to start with one hand there, so I got it started first. And it tracked really well. It fell right into its own line again after just 1 or 2 revolutions, and then I just slowly spun it, tightened it a little bit. I wanted to make sure I didn't over tighten it because I'm going into steel here, not copper. You can see the channel starting to cut into the metal And fast forward a little bit, and after maybe 3 minutes, I didn't count any of the revolutions, but you can feel it start to cut through. And I just took it off, and the pipe ended up popping right off. It makes a nice clean cut. There is a burr on the inside, so if I had any fittings that needed to fit inside the pipe, that might be an issue. I would definitely have to deburr the inside of the pipe if I had any fittings, but I'm not doing that, so didn't worry about it. The cutting tool itself held up pretty well. I did 11 pipes, and I paused the video here so you can look at the wheel, and no real dings or nicks. Was impressed. So earlier in the video I mentioned that some of the larger pipes were too short. They were only 4 feet tall, and I needed to get them to 6 feet, so I ended up buying these extensions online that were drawn down so that they fit inside the existing 2 3/8 inch pipe. There's about 3 inches of smaller diameter pipe that fits inside the larger diameter pipe, and you end up just heating up the outer pipe, the lower pipe if you will, to expand it a bit, and then I put some of that Pro Strength industrial grade construction adhesive from Loctite and pounded it in with a sledgehammer from the top. And when it cooled and when the epoxy finally dried, it was pretty strong. It feels really good. I'm going to end up filling these pipes with concrete all the way to the top anyway. My old job, we used to fill all our concrete bollards, all our steel bollards with concrete, and that made them much stronger and stiffer, and I figured why not do it for my fence too. I know there are some corrosion considerations, but we had pipes in the field for 20 years that never showed any signs of rusting out because of the concrete on the inside, so I figured I'd give it a shot. So there you have it. The rigid pipe cutter worked great on the steel, cut right into it pretty easily, nice clean cuts. The cutting wheel itself wasn't damaged. Even if it was, I could always replace that instead of the whole thing. They are available online. I'm hoping to make this a multi-video series, start to finish. And thanks for watching.